This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Thanks for joining today. I want to talk about some nuts and bolts things today, and that is when you have a goal and you have some things that you are aspiring to or that you really want to get done, or a project at work or around the house that really needs to get done. How do you go from dream? How do you go from goal? How do you go from this big project to actionable steps? So let's talk today about some ways that we can break these things down into actionable steps. Breaking down your goals into tasks is critical. One of the reasons people find that to-do lists or task lists don't work for them is we don't just populate it with tasks, but we'll put projects on there. We'll put goals on there. We'll put ideas on there. Projects that are quite large. And so when you're working through your list and you come to a project or a goal or a dream or a scheme, you have no earthly idea what the very next step you need to do. And so you just abandon ship with it and kind of throw it to the side. You don't know what to do. So it is critical that when you come to a goal or a project or some large item, how do you break it down into actionable tasks that you can fit into your schedule? Because you will never get the dream accomplished, the goal met, the project in on time and under budget if you don't learn how to translate all of that, break it down, work backward, whatever system works for you, into actionable steps that you can take in reasonable amounts of time. Of course, the first thing you have to do is, if it's a goal-oriented, you have to figure out what your goals are, what you believe in, what is your purpose here on earth, what is it that you're trying to accomplish. You have to take your goal, break it down into tasks, and you need to have some milestones along the way. I call them milestones. I used to call them boundary markers or road signs, meaning, all right, there are certain elements of this project. These are the first sort of 2 or 3 general things that I need to get done, and I need to have them done in the next 2 weeks, all right? Back yourself away from where 2 weeks from now would be. What are the actionable steps you're going to need to take each workday in order to get that accomplished? Oftentimes you can kind of create, using the milestone, or the old way I used to say it, a road marker, you kind of create a map. And you can usually divide most of your goals into that. There are some that are going to take a certain few things that you're going to have to learn and research. And so build that research, reading, studying, preparation time. That would be some actionable steps that you can break down. Now, if there's a financial component to it, you'll know how you need to raise the money or break that down or do whatever it is that you must do. You'll also know that there's ways of telling, am I still on task at the halfway, perhaps even the 3/4 way? But how will I know when I'm halfway done? What would be a good halfway milestone? One of the things you have to think about is, who am I going to have to bring on board? Who's going to collaborate with me? Who is in my sphere of influence that would be willing to help me? I have to find that kind of a support system. I need to maybe have a conversation with them. Here's what I believe I'm trying to do, and I'm wondering if you could help me with this, or if it's a place where you work, here's what I'm thinking. Is there a way that you can help me? So I try to create in a file. It's actually, I use actually Remarkable 2 is what I'm using right now, where I scratch these kind of out and circle them, but I create a timeline for my tasks. I need to get these 8 tasks done before next Tuesday, these 4 tasks. It depends on what you're working on. And then the other thing that I have said to you over and over again, you just have to get started. If you have come up with these tasks, you've worked at it, knowing that you don't have perfect knowledge today of what the future holds, no line is a straight ascending line just going straight up. There'll be zigzags, detours. Life will get in the way. You'll have family issues, health issues, whatever it is. But every day that you're able, you have to get up and you have to work toward completing each task. You'll never get to the end. You'll never have a goal realized or a project finished if you don't get up each and every day that you're supposed to and complete the task. Now, you may be thinking, well, what kinds of things are you talking about? I'm not just thinking of work-related, though that is the most natural fit, but actually this process can work in any part of your life. Perhaps you just need to clean and declutter your house or your work environment so that you can get organized and feel good. It may be that you've always wanted to learn to speak another language, perhaps Spanish. Maybe you would like to learn how to code so you could change professions and become a coder. One that I've come across in literature many times is people who want to read the world's greatest masterpieces. I hope before I pass away that I will read the 100 greatest works in the English language. I'm more than halfway. I'm way beyond halfway there. But I read something a couple of years ago, because one book that I hadn't tackled was War and Peace, because it is so huge. And then using this process, I heard a person explain what to do. I can't remember the exact number of chapters, but it's somewhere in the 362 chapters. Now, a 362 chapter book is why War and Peace is so thick. But each chapter is relatively small in relationship to most books. So this person just decided, I'm going to read War and Peace. I'm going to quit talking about it. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to read a chapter a day. That's 362 chapters. The chapters are very small. And so what seems to be this overwhelming goal, read Tolstoy's book, The War and Peace, but since I can break down, and if I read a chapter, which is sometimes 3, 4, no more than 5 or 6 pages, sometimes 8, I think I saw that one of the chapters was, but very brief. If I read a chapter every day at the end of the year, I will be one of the few people in the world who has read War and Peace from cover to cover. Some people want to run a marathon or a 5K or a half marathon. Perhaps your goal this year is to land a well-paying job in a field that you're really excited about. You really believe that you can make a contribution. Perhaps it's to get to your healthy weight and to become physically fit by exercising and taking on proper nutrition. Perhaps it's beginning to save for retirement or to get out of debt and to get some financial independence. Perhaps it's to grow spiritually closer to God. I mean, it can be just about anything. And all of these are things that you can find. I've already told you the one about reading War and Peace that I read some time ago, that a person said, if it's something that you think is worthwhile, if it's something that you think you need to do and you're supposed to do, then you have to kind of break it down, chunk it down, put it into different, and make it more manageable pieces. That's what we talked about with that large book. If you say, I'm going to read this huge, large book in a year, it's overwhelming. But if you break it down into very bite-sized pieces, it's very, very doable. Maybe what you need to do is thinking about, because not every project or every goal or everything that you're thinking about, how am I going to get this done, is all exactly the same. Some are more tactile, some are more spiritual. There are several ways to do this when you're trying to work backward from the goal. What will I have to do each day, month to get it done? One is just by time. You may be able to break that project, that goal, that dream down and say, you know, really, if I could just give 2 hours a week to this, well, divide that by however many days you want to spend this week, each week working on that. So there are times in which it's good to go by time chunks or just saying, I'm going to block the time, and it is this time that I'm going to take the actionable steps that will get me there. I think I've already given you an illustration on quantity using the War and Peace. There are X amount of chapters. I'm going to read a chapter a day, and by the end of the year, I will have read the entirety of the book. The other one that we mostly talk about and that I mostly do is not necessarily those two, but it is actionable steps. Because really, when I set a goal or a project's been given to me or something I need to work on, I'm not always sure. As a matter of fact, I would say more often than not, almost 99% of the time, I'm not sure of how many actions, what exact actions it's going to take. So really, before you even get started with that, you have to sit down and count the cost and begin to say, all right, if I'm going to get from here to there, what are the steps? Is there learning that I have to do? Are there books that I have to read, seminar I have to go to? Can I listen to some TED Talks or some YouTube videos that could help me? I have to do some actionable steps. You know, when you're just not sure what all is going into achieving this goal, then you have to just say, okay, here's the goal, here's the target that I'm trying to hit. What would be some of the markers along the way, the road markers that will tell me that I'm still making progress? And then what will be the actionable steps? You will have to redo this a few times. You'll have to change because you only know today what you know today. You may learn things, and there are times when it actually falls into place and happens more quickly than you ever imagined. Now, that's not often or always the case. There are going to be some cases where, oh my, there's more involved in this than I ever could have dreamed. But you have to break those down. I think it also depends when you're talking about time. How much time do you have to work on this goal? A year, 6 months? There are people who will take like an Excel spreadsheet. If it's a 6-month they believe it's going to take, they just set it up there and have 180 cells representing the days that make up half a year. And then they number them 1 to 180. And then as they look over their sheets, they're brainstorming all of the things they've done, collaborating, they begin to fill in those spaces in that Excel spreadsheet. This is what I need to do on day 1. This is what I need to do on day 2. What are some of the things you're going to have to do? Online and research, read a book, talk to somebody who's an expert in the field. Again, look at the video. It may be some things that you need to think about is, what's the equipment? Is there any equipment that you're going to need to purchase or get? And then when you buy new equipment, especially in the field of electronics, it feels to me, we believe that buying the electronics, saving up the money for it is the end-all, be-all, do-all. And the fact is you're going to have to learn how to use the equipment. You're going to have to decide, what is it I'm going to do? Is there an outline that will help me there? And all of the various parts. And then if it's a half a year goal, you might want to start breaking it down into 10 different parts of 18 days. Now, I'm not saying there's anything magical about 18 days. I'm just trying to batch that down or to bunch that down into 10 activities. And then to create actionable steps, here's the question I always ask myself, because it's very easy when you're brainstorming to just get in theory and to forget that on a particular day when you're trying to do this action, it needs to be something that you can do, you understand how to do it, and you have the ability to do it. So the very first thing you need to ask yourself is, what can I do right now to get started? What's the first action I can take? Oftentimes people plan and overplan and become paralyzed by planning. Always have a bias toward action and activity. So populate the first action. Make sure the first of your actionable steps is, I today am going to do this. What is the first step? Just make sure you do this. And all you have to do is one day at a time. I came across an acrostic from Pat Brand's that's basically the word crumb with an extra B on the end. It's C-R-U-M-B-B. That stands for this: clearly, realizable unit that is a meaningful building block. A clearly realizable unit that is a meaningful building block. Now, there are two key factors as you're seeking to get from where you are today to get that goal instituted is it a clearly realizable unit? So when I look at my task list and develop it for the night before and see where I'm saying, can I look at that next step and clearly understand not only what it's saying, what's required of me, but it's actually doable? That's critical. Don't make it pie in the sky. And don't just make up something so that you're a whirl of activity, but it's not accomplishing. The last part of the crumb acrostic is not only is it realizable and understandable, but is it really truly a meaningful building block? Sort of look at it like Legos. We're putting one piece on top of another. And right now it may not seem to be making much difference, but given enough time, we're building something. Is it not just busy work, but is it something that has to be done? It's meaningful and will move me forward. Just a couple of things to review real quickly. Right, make sure that you prepare ahead of time with everything you need. Make sure you set deadlines. Make sure, I always like to start with the smaller and easier steps. Find some way to track your progress, and that would be daily or a weekly review. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today that this has been like a vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review. You can do this. You can take your goals and break them down into actionable steps because you know what I know about you. And that is, leader, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. Go seize the day. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying have a great and blessed day.